ibn Ziyad, who led the Umayyad conquest of the Iberian Peninsula in 711 AD. The name is a Spanish derivation of the Arabic phrase Jabal Tariq, which means mountain of Tariq. Key facts about the name's origin. Tariq ibn Ziyad. In 711, Tariq ibn Ziyad led an army from North Africa across the Strait of Gibraltar to begin the Islamic conquest of Hispania. He consolidated his troops at the strategic rock formation that now bears his name. The Arabic term for the promontory was Jabal Tariq, mountain of Tariq. Corruption into Gibraltar. Over time, this Arabic name was corrupted by other languages, eventually evolving into the modern name Gibraltar. The Pillars of Hercules. Before Tariq's arrival, the Rock of Gibraltar was known to the ancient Greeks and Romans as Mons Kelp and was considered one of the two Pillars of Hercules, marking the limit of the known world. The name Iberia comes from the ancient Greek word Iberia. River Ebro. The most widely accepted theory is that the Greeks named the region after the Iberian Peninsula's Ebro River, which they called Iberos. Ancient people. The term refers to the ancient pre-Roman peoples, known as Iberians, who inhabited the eastern and southern coastal areas of the peninsula from at least the 6th century BCE. Origin of the word Hebrew. The word Hebrew derives from the Hebrew root eber, meaning the other side or over. It likely refers to Eber, the patriarch. One tradition is that the term is derived from Eber, a biblical ancestor of Abraham. Those who crossed over. Another explanation, and the one most widely accepted by linguists, is that the name was given to Abraham and his descendants because they crossed over the Euphrates River to enter Canaan. Abraham himself is referred to as the Hebrew *Ivri in the Bible. Malaga is one of the oldest cities in the world. Historical accounts show that after the siege of Malaga, Isabella's reign was marked by efforts to enforce religious uniformity through expulsion and forced conversion, not by providing integration options to North Africa during the Age of Discovery. Malaga's connection to the Indian Ocean was indirect and antagonistic. As a key Mediterranean port for the Spanish crown, Malaga was involved in the Spanish-Portuguese rivalry over trade with Asia. However, this involvement focused on bypassing the Indian Ocean and challenging existing control, not participating in it. Malaga's indirect involvement. A port of the Spanish Empire, Malaga was an important port for the Kingdom of Castile, which was united with Aragon under Isabella and Ferdinand in the 15th century. It became a critical node for trade and military expeditions in the Mediterranean and Atlantic. Economic motivations. The search for a new route to Asia was driven by Spain's desire to access the lucrative spice trade without relying on the existing, Muslim-controlled Indian Ocean routes. Spain aimed to cut out the middlemen and establish a direct link, which ultimately led to the expeditions of Christopher Columbus heading west in 1492. Sephardic heritage. There is a well-established historical and genetic connection between the Iberian Peninsula and Sephardic Jews, who were a major population in Spain and Portugal for centuries. However, the Hebrew word for the peninsula, Sepharad, is of biblical origin and is distinct from the word Iberia. Americans of Malagasy ancestry, which is east of Africa and west of India, West Indian ancestry, are recent immigrants from Madagascar. Some notable Americans who have Malagasy ancestry include Andy Razaf, Catherine Dunham, Regina M. Anderson, William H. Hasty, George Schuyler and Philippa Schuyler, Muhammad Ali, 15, Robert Reed Church and Mary Church Durrell, Frederick D. Gregory, 16, Thomas P. Muhammad, 17, Paschal Beroy Randolph, Maya Rudolph, 18, Claude McKay, Jess Tom, Ben Gillis, 19, and Keenan Ivory Wayans. 20. The first recorded African slave in Canada, Olivier Lejeune, was taken from Madagascar to New France in 1628. Spanish expulsion of Muslims. After conquering the last Muslim kingdom in Spain, Granada, in 1492, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand initially allowed Muslims to stay under the Treaty of Granada. However, they soon revoked this and issued edicts forcing Muslims to either convert to Christianity or leave Spain entirely. These expulsions occurred mainly in 1502 and later under the name of the Moriscos in 1609. The vast majority of these expelled individuals settled in North Africa. Control of the Indian Ocean. In the late 15th century, Indian Ocean trade was dominated by Muslim traders and other Eastern merchants. European powers like Portugal and Spain were locked out of these routes, which passed through Ottoman and Venetian-controlled territories and were very expensive. The search for new trade routes, the desire to bypass these monopolies and establish a direct route to the east was a major motivation for the Age of Exploration. This led Spain to fund Christopher Columbus's voyage west in 1492. Historical context. The connection to North Africa has historical roots, with Queen Isabella in the 15th century offering options for immigration to North Africa after the siege of Malaga. People from the province of Malaga, Spain, were among the groups of Spanish settlers who immigrated to Louisiana during the late 18th century, a period when Spain controlled the territory. In 1778, 16 families from Malaga were sent to Louisiana and helped found the town of New Iberia. Key facts about the connection between. The family eventually spread all throughout the United States in areas such as Louisiana, Massachusetts, South Carolina and California. Pierre Saulnier, of the third generation, was deported to Liverpool, England, but later settled in Cayenne, French Guiana. His daughter Françoise was also exiled to Liverpool, where she married Elaine Hebert while they were both prisoners in that country. The term New Spain refers to a vast territory of the Spanish Empire in the Americas and Asia during the colonial era, and has no geographical connection to the Spanish city of Malaga. With almost 3,000 years of history, One of the main reasons for this was its privileged location on the western shore of the Mediterranean Sea. Apparently, the first civilization to establish a settlement in Malaga was an Iberian Hebrew tribe. Countries with a significant Malagasy diaspora include France, specifically the overseas departments of Mayotte and Réunion, 13, Comoros, specifically the island of Moeli, South Africa, and the United States. The Malagasy diaspora in the United States includes those descended from people who, slave or free, came during the 18th and 19th centuries. 14. Other Americans of Malagasy ancestry are recent immigrants from Madagascar. Some notable Americans who have Malagasy ancestry include Andy Razaf, Catherine Dunham, Regina M. Anderson, William H. Hastie, George Schuyler and Philippa Schuyler, Muhammad Ali, 15, Robert Reed Church and Mary Church Terrell, Frederick D. Gregory, 16, Thomas P. Mahomet, 17, Paschal Beroy Randolph, Maya Rudolph, 18, Claude McKay, Jess Tom, Ben Gillis, 19, and Keenan Ivory Wayans. 20. The first recorded African slave in Canada, Olivier Lejeune, was taken from Madagascar to New France in 1628. Orphée Prosper fifth great-grandfather B, at 1801, Opelousas, St. Landry, Circumflex Louisiana, USAD, the 28th of November 1858, St. Martinville, St. Martin, Louisiana, United States. 1492. Instead, in that year, all practicing Jews were expelled or forced to convert to Catholicism, while Muslims were initially allowed to remain under the terms of the surrender of Granada, the last Muslim-held territory in Spain. Over the following century, however, Muslims were systematically pressured to convert to Christianity, and by 1609, the final decree for the expulsion of all remaining Muslims, known as Moriscos, was issued and completed by 1614. Here's a breakdown of what happened. 1492, expulsion of Jews, not Muslims. On January 2, 1492, the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella conquered Granada, the last remaining Muslim kingdom in Iberia. The terms of surrender for Granada initially guaranteed Muslims the right to practice their faith, but this would not last long. However, in March 1492, the Alhambra decree was issued, ordering the expulsion of all practicing Jews from Spain or their forced conversion to Catholicism. Following years, forced conversions of Muslims, the tolerant policy toward Muslims in Granada was soon abandoned, leading to increased persecution and pressure to convert. The subsequent decades saw forced conversions, and many Muslims continued to practice their faith in secret. In 1502, Muslims in the Kingdom of Granada were offered a choice, baptism or exile, and most chose baptism but continued to practice Islam privately. 1609, expulsion of Moriscos. By the early 17th century, Spain decided that the Moriscos, as the descendants of Muslims were called, were incapable of becoming good and faithful Christians. In 1609, the Spanish crown issued a decree ordering the final expulsion of all remaining Muslims, who were forcibly removed from their homes and sent to North Africa. This expulsion was completed by 1614 and resulted in the abandonment of previously prosperous regions, devastating the economies of areas like Valencia and Aragon. Queen Isabella. The Siege of Malaga. The primary focus after the Granada conquest was the establishment of the Spanish Inquisition to enforce religious uniformity and the 1492 expulsion of Jews and Muslims, rather than encouraging settlement in North Africa. Instead of a policy of immigration to North Africa, Isabella's rule led to the subjugation of the Muslim population within Spain, which was then followed by efforts to assimilate them into the Catholic faith through coercion and forced conversion. The Siege of Malaga and its aftermath. Granada's fall, 1492. The fall of Granada in 1492 was the culmination of the reconquista, ending centuries of Muslim rule in the Iberian Peninsula. Religious policy. Queen Isabella and Ferdinand II's reign was characterized by an intense pursuit of religious unity. Following the conquest of Granada, the monarchs implemented policies aimed at achieving this goal. Spanish Inquisition. Isabella established the Spanish Inquisition in 1478 to ensure doctrinal conformity and persecute those who did not adhere to Catholic beliefs. Expulsion of Jews and Muslims. In the same year, 1492, the monarchs decreed the expulsion of Jews from Spain and a forced conversion or exile of Muslims who refused to convert to Catholicism. Lack of immigration policy to North Africa. Forced conversions. Instead of encouraging immigration, the policies enacted by Isabella aimed at forcibly converting or expelling the Muslim population from Spain. Consolidation of power. The focus was on consolidating Catholic rule and ensuring religious homogeneity within the newly unified kingdom. In summary, historical accounts show that after the Siege of Malaga, Isabella's reign was marked by efforts to enforce religious uniformity through expulsion and forced conversion, not by providing immigration options to North Africa. Historical context. The connection to North Africa has historical roots, with Queen Isabella in the 15th century offering options for immigration to North Africa after the Siege of Malaga. People from the province of Malaga, Spain, were among the groups of Spanish settlers who immigrated to Louisiana during the late 18th century, a period when Spain controlled the territory. In 1778, 16 families from Malaga were sent to Louisiana and helped found the town of New Iberia. Key facts about the connection between. The family eventually spread all throughout the United States in areas such as Louisiana, Massachusetts, South Carolina and California. Pierre Saulnier, of the third generation, was deported to Liverpool, England, but later settled in Cayenne, French Guiana. his daughter Françoise, was also exiled to Liverpool, where she married Alain Hebert while they were both prisoners in that country. The term New Spain refers to a vast territory of the Spanish Empire in the Americas and Asia during the colonial era, and has no geographical connection to the Spanish city of Malaga. Location of Malaga, Spain. Country, Spain. Region, Andalusia. Geographical feature, located on the Mediterranean coastline, part of the Costa del Sol, Coast of the Sun. Historical context, it was a port city founded by the Phoenicians in the 8th century BC and has been continuously inhabited since. The term New Spain, Nueva España, was the name given to the territories controlled by Spain in North, Central, and South America, as well as some parts of Asia. There is no historical or geographical link between this colonial territory and the Spanish city of Malaga, which is located in Europe. Californios, singular Californio, are Hispanic Californians, especially those descended from Spanish and Mexican settlers of the 17th through 19th centuries who arrived under Spanish and Mexican rule before California was annexed by the United States. California's Spanish-speaking community has resided there since 1683 and is made up of varying Spanish and Mexican origins, including Criollos, Mestizos, indigenous Californian peoples, and small numbers of mulattoes. Malagueña surnames still found in New Iberia today, sometimes in altered forms, include Isleños, other regions, Cajuns, Canarian Americans, Canary Islanders, Spanish Americans, Louisiana Creoles, Floridanos, Tejanos, Nuevo Mexicanos, Californios. Many of the original 16 families who founded New Iberia in 1778, having come from Malaga, assimilated into the local culture over the centuries. This often meant their names were changed to sound more French, as the area is dominated by French Acadian, Cajun, culture. The New Iberia Spanish Festival works to celebrate and preserve the Malagueña heritage and raise awareness of the city's Spanish roots. Spanish rule, Spain governed the Louisiana Territory from 1763 to 1803. Spanish officials, including Governor Bernardo de Galvez, encouraged Spanish immigration to the colony, partly to defend against British incursions. Settlers from Malaga, in 1778, a group of families, known as Malagueños, sailed from the Malaga province to New Orleans before settling in what is now New Iberia. Other Spanish settlers, another, larger group of Spanish immigrants came from the Canary Islands and are known as Isleños. They mainly settled in areas like St. Bernard Parish near New Orleans and along Bayou Laforche. Lingering influence, even after the Louisiana Purchase transferred the territory to the United States in 1803, Spanish influence continued. While the Malagueños of New Iberia largely assimilated, the descendants of the Isleños in St. Bernard Parish preserved their Spanish language and customs for centuries. Architecture. The Spanish period left a significant mark on Louisiana's architecture, particularly in New Orleans. After major fires in the late 1700s, the Spanish authorities mandated new building codes, resulting in iconic features like stucco exteriors, ironwork balconies, and private courtyards, which are often mistakenly associated with French design. Governor Bernardo de Galvez. A key figure in this history was Bernardo de Galvez, who was born in the province of Malaga. As governor, he was instrumental in encouraging both Malagueña and Isleña settlement in Louisiana. Why Malaga and Louisiana are associated. The connection is rooted in a specific historical moment, the Spanish colonial period, and a targeted recruitment of Spanish-speaking settlers to populate and protect the territory. While Malaga itself is in Andalusia, Spain, and not directly connected to Louisiana geographically, its people are part of the state's diverse heritage. Orfe Prosper as a historical figure born around 1801. However, the exact place of birth is contested, with some sources claiming Opelousas, St. Landry, Louisiana, and others citing Canary Islands. In 1826, living in Mauritius would have been influenced by the island's diverse population, including French, British, African, Indian, and Chinese communities. The economy was centered around sugar plantations, with enslaved indentured laborers from India working the fields. The island's cultural landscape would have been a rich tapestry of traditions and languages. The abolition of slavery in 1835 would later shape the social dynamics on the island. Dwellers in the Willow. Our Moroccan name and history and our Moorish identity soon forgotten through time. After becoming Huguenots, the family later legitimately made immigration to the Americas. 53 years after the last Moors left Spain, Louis Saunier was born in Vitter, Bretagne, France. Louis later became the first Saunier to set foot on American soil, arriving in Acadia, Nova Scotia. In Canada in 1685. Louis was also on the 1693 census taken at Biabassin. He and his wife, Louise Bastineau, also known as Pelletier, had 13 children. Louis died on the 10th of March in 1709. Youngest son Etienne, born in c. 1702, married first to Jean, daughter of Abraham Comeau and Marguerite Piter, probably at Minas in c. 1729, and then to Anne, daughter of Jérôme de Royce and Marie Garot, at Biabassin, Gigneto, in June 1740. They followed Etienne's older brothers Jacques and Pierre to the distant settlement of Petit Cadillac. Louis's fifth son Etienne, born in c. 1702 probably at Minas, married Jean, daughter of Abraham Comeau and Marguerite Piter, in c. 1729 probably at Minas. According to Bona Arsenault, in 1730 and 1732, Jean gave Etienne 2 children, both daughters. Louisiana records hint that she may have given him a son as well in 1736. Two of their daughters married into the Thibodeau and Lalonde families, and one of them emigrated to Louisiana from Halifax. Ayton remarried to Anne, daughter of Jerry